I have to say I'm a champion of solo play internally. Solo play will definitely see some attention soon. But I would love to see 1,000 people going at it on a single map. And I'm not saying this is wait a minute. I'm not saying this is feasible.
Moving your character from one server to another. What do you think about that in Albion as itself right now?
Hello and welcome to an Albion TV special presentation. Today, with Albion Unlocked, we're going to get an opportunity to discuss the technical aspects of Albion Online. I know you guys are all very interested in that. Tazzik and ProgrammerJon are going to go pretty in-depth into Unity, the network situation, and all things related. So, without further ado, I think we need to get to some introductions. We have Tazzik here, who you all know very well, but I think we need to introduce ourselves to ProgrammerJon. Welcome to the stream.
Hey, thanks for having me, y'all.
How you feeling, John? Are you excited for a good show?
Honestly, I'm kind of nervous. I watch Twitch streamers all the time, and I know they have a really hard job, so I'm kind of excited to
it's honestly
get on
the
stream
hardest
myself.
job on the planet, actually.
Bro, I believe it. I believe
is the one where you got the mic in front of you and you're playing some Albion Online. It's a really hard one. So we're gonna do some nice intro with John. We're gonna hear about who he is and stuff. One thing though, this isn't just an interview. We don't just sit here and talk. We do play the game. Why don't you tell us about what you do at SBI?
Basically, I'm technical director. I've been on board for a little under a year right now. I'm what is called like a manager of managers. I have a bunch of principal engineers underneath me, a bunch of leads. I help guide the strategic direction of technology at SBI. This means I, for example, dictate the major technical projects that come onto the roadmap. I offer technical consultation on some of the larger features. And basically, I help champion performance, tools improvements, like all of the things that keep the game running stable and fast. That's what I do.
What experience do you have in sort of gaming in general and like Albion PvP and stuff?
Okay, so gaming in general, I'm pretty much a core gamer. I love gaming. I've been actually programming since I was 15. I'm 45 now. But
nice.
I'm really into FPSs, hardcore games like Tarkov. I played a lot of Rust and Daisy back in the day. Okay, let me talk about solo real quick, though.
Go ahead.
I have to say I'm a champion of solo play internally. The fact of the matter is when people play in guilds, they're more engaged. When they play in groups, they play more. And like, if I'm being honest, they spend more money. So we want to encourage people getting together, going out and having fun. But there are many of us internally who only play solo, who like to actually have the solo experience. And I know right now we have some awesome things in store for some of the solo content. I don't want to overpromise or say too much here, but solo play will definitely see some attention soon.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's what I love to hear there.
So, and actually, John, just before we get into that, has there been anything sort of launched yet or anything like big that you've worked on that's already kind of in the game?
Actually, one of my pet projects is this packet loss indicator that'll be coming with our next update. It's kind of crazy to play a competitive game that doesn't have jitter UI, packet loss UI, and so yeah.
So John, just with this upgrade to like the Unity 6 engine from what we're on now, I think 2021, what like high level stuff can we expect? Not even initially, but just over time.
We've been working internally with Unity 6 for some time. It won't be coming with our next major update, but we plan on introducing this with one of the upcoming patches. So we will see performance improvements there. In addition, with Unity 6, we have access to a lot of interesting things that should improve performance overall. Like Unity 6 has this really cool thing called instantiate async. So it lets us move the instantiation process off the main thread. As you know, or as you may know, Albion Online is a pretty much CPU-bound game. So you need a really strong CPU. Your GPU just pretty much freaking idles there. So all of us with these, I have like a 5080. It does almost nothing. So with the move to Unity 6, we'll get a lot of improvements there. I think there are some upgrades to the incremental garbage collector, which should smooth things out a lot. I don't know, in general, Unity 6 is going to be like pretty much
So
a foundational upgrade.
Can you talk about, and this is something David, the CTO, had talked about in the past a lot, we did some interviews, stuff like that, how Albion is sort of really the game that you're playing is kind of not necessarily the actual game logic, right? It is a server MMO. And so when you're playing the game that you, the developers, are giving to people, you're exporting out of Unity, it has to talk to that server. And a lot of the core stuff that happens, like, you know, hitting an enemy in a ZVZ, that's all happening on the server side. Do we still have that big layer, that separation layer?
Absolutely, and we'll probably never get away from it.
Yep.
David Saltz, the previous CTO, he was a genius, and he really architected this game like in a pretty unique way as far as games are concerned. So basically, Albion Online is split between a server authoritative layer and a presentation layer that is done in Unity. And this Unity layer, it's like basically no game logic. It just presents everything that's happening on the server side itself.
I want to talk about the client side part, so the game to begin with. And a lot of those things in Unity 6, right, is kind of what we're going to be looking at. One thing that people in chat have already talked about, and this is sort of tech that people are seeing in other games and sort of like these new systems coming out. You have DLSS, you have frame generation, things like that. Where do you see those? Like you talked about that before. Do you see those coming in and maybe helping players? And do you see that helping ZVZ players, that kind of tech?
So, temper your expectations.
Words,
Like, as I said before, the main problem with ZVZs is that it uses so much CPU. We're a CPU-bound game. And a lot of these technologies, if you're looking at things like frame generation, DLSS, it can help you if you're GPU-bound, if your GPU doesn't have enough power, basically. So I want to add them for sure. For people who play in 4K like me, of course, they will add improvements. And if you're already getting over like 60 FPS, I think they're a good solution. But it's a competitive game. And any competitive game, you need to worry about latency. It's one of the most important things you need to think about. And frame generation, it will add latency. So
yeah, and frame generation when you have, 15 FPS in a big ZVZ fight isn't going to feel that great if it's enabled.
Nope.
You already need a decent frame rate to begin with. And so I wanted to make sure we sort of let ZVZ players know that might not be where they see improvements, but there are big improvements in other areas. So you talked about sort of async instantiations. I want to talk about the sort of rendering pipeline. So you have one big tech upgrade in Unity 6, right? The GPU resident drawer, sort of like batch rendering system. How do you see that maybe affecting ZVZs where you have all these players wearing different gear, different meshes and different kind of materials, and
this is where I need my graphics engineer, honestly. But I can say that it will help us with a few aspects of ZVZs. So number one, we are working on an improvement for all of the UI that happens within the world. So you look at our characters right now, like our name, like the nameplates, these little bars, all of the damage bubbles and shit that like pop up. All of this is in-world UI. And right now, this issue, the systems themselves, oh shit, they're not really optimized. And what is this dude doing?
He's just a solo
Thank
guy.
you.
Maybe even a streamer. He said hi. He might be in the chat.
Oh, that's so cute. Thank you. We love you. Okay. These kind of systems, I think they can actually benefit from GPU instancing and things like this. But honestly, this system that you're talking about, it is primarily beneficial for static types of meshes and things like that. So I don't know if it will bring the huge ZVZ performance, but we can improve UI performance, and UI is pretty taxing in ZVZ.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, even in your write-up, you mentioned how like you could probably expect around like a 10%, 15% in big ZVZ fights when you don't have to worry about all these different game objects, the health bars, the numbers, the names, all those things sort of taking so much of their own sort of like time on the CPU to be computed. We can get into then, because I know these guys are foaming at the mouth to hear it, John. we can get into the server stuff that is going to be the biggest hitting thing for the PvP players.
Exactly.
So, and honestly, the one thing that I really want explained to our viewers is Albion's server system that isn't kind of what they might be used to in a game like, for example, RuneScape, that has like every 0.6 seconds, it's a tick, it's a server update, and your actions exist only on this tick system. Albion uses something a little different from that. Can you get into how that works?
Yeah, so basically what Albion uses is a timeline system. So a tick-based system, you have a fixed loop. It runs every few milliseconds, maybe 60 milliseconds, something like this. It collects all of the inputs. It calculates global state. All of this happens on a regular basis. And it's really easy to leverage technologies like multi-threading, et cetera, with a tick-based system. It's really easy to optimize this. A timeline-based system, it's really where Albion is unique because we take all of the players' inputs and we put certain events onto a queue. And then this queue is processed in order. Each of the kind of actions that you're doing, it's putting these into the priority queue, and it's scheduling them to be executed at a specific period of time.
And by the way, John, you can hop back into the depths as well.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm joining.
We're all in there. And yeah. So keep going, right? So you're scheduling these things, and what does that get us for benefits in terms of like Albion's unique combat system, right?
It can be really performant. So honestly, in like the kind of combat we're doing right now, it's even more efficient than working with a tick-based system. And you can do some really unique kinds of gameplay like this. Like if you notice, no other MMO has gameplay quite like Albion. There are some downsides though, that when you're trying to optimize it, when you're trying to introduce things like threading, it's very, very difficult. So you can actually have problems like corrupting the game state if you're trying to do wrong types of multi-threading. Certain kinds of threaded operations aren't even possible with this kind of a system without changing how the game feels. So I don't know, like honestly, it's a benefit, but it's also a
there's a lot there that you
drawback.
have to
It's a
take into
trade-off.
account, right?
It's a wild challenge.
David had
Yeah,
talked
absolutely.
about how Albion at the beginning, when they were working on it back in 2012, was sort of envisioned to be, 10 people, 5 people hitting each other, 5v5 system. And there was an open world and people could also, a little bit more, but it wasn't really expected way back then that you'd have 300 people hitting each other. And
No,
so
they
over
were
time,
thinking
they have to
about
scale
open
that
world,
system
right?
up, right?
Yeah,
And-
5v5s.
Yeah. And John, I don't really know if you know this, but I was something of a 5v5 aficionado myself. So I missed that system for sure. But now what we have is great, but the system from inception wasn't necessarily like designed for that optimized layer. And so what are you kind of looking at to help these things that might be an issue in ZVZs? One of the biggest things affecting ZVZs, for example, is sort of the non-linear scaling of how the abilities work in terms of when you use a spell against 5 people. You've actually wrote something exactly like this. When you use a spell against 5 people, you might check 10 different things, right? Collision and various other things. But when you use that same spell against 100 people, now there's 1,000 things that you have to check on that one sort of threaded CPU server layer. What are you looking at there for improvement?
So honestly, improvements here are really difficult without changing game design. We're looking for, of course, improvements to all of the algorithms that run on the server side. We're looking to minimize allocations and these kind of like simple performance optimizations. But even more than that, we're looking to see if we can do things like aggregating health updates. So like these little damage values that are popping up over the enemies right now. When you're in a ZVZ, there are maybe thousands of those going off all at the same time. And these are all eating up network bandwidth. They're actually really taxing in terms of performance. We want to find some ways, without interrupting gameplay, to aggregate these network updates a little bit. Additionally, there are some spells that we see that have a heavy performance cost, like they're really too expensive.
Do you have any examples of spells like that? I think players would really be curious to know.
Anything AoE based, I think players already know when they're using like these battle mounts or using some of these AoE spells, things can start to lag. And so not all of the spells, but specific spells, especially like if you have buffs in the equation, like reflect, etc., these are the ones that can cause like a significant performance impact. And we're looking at sometimes spells taking up triple digit milliseconds. So over 100 milliseconds within this core cluster loop. And so when you have that situation, the server's going to lag. The server's going to lag. And so what we need to do is optimize those kind of situations and make sure they don't happen.
Yeah. And so kind of related to that topic, right? Like the idea of these spells getting optimized underneath. Do you foresee any sort of gameplay changes affecting them? Or do you think this is something you can do without kind of changing like the combat and how those spells function?
We don't want to change gameplay. We want to try to avoid this. There are already certain limitations in place. Like I think by default, we limit AoE to target a maximum of like 25 players or something like this. So we already have certain limitations and we don't want to introduce more limitations, but that's actually the easiest way to improve performance. Add limitations to spells in games.
But you take away from that unique aspect of Albion, the combat, right? Like you were saying.
Exactly, and that's what we don't want to do. So we're really working closely with our designers to make sure we come up with solutions to some of these problems without affecting gameplay. Gameplay is king.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, especially for a game like Albion. One big thing the ZVZ community does, and maybe some people who aren't in ZVZs are going to be surprised when I say this. One of the big things, John, is you mass up, you call your CTA, you're grouped up, you and your 200 best buds, and then everyone sends the lag check. You all send all your abilities, right?
Bro, when I heard this, that's
can
wild.
You talk about, like, first of all, and funny that players have come in and do this, but there's a measurable sort of improvement that they find by doing this. Can you maybe talk about why and sort of, do you think that might need to happen?
It's object instantiation, man. So the reason that the lag check works is because we have systems in the game that basically pull objects, reuse these objects, so we don't have to keep recreating them over and over and over again.
Yeah. Can you talk about maybe what Albion does right now and sort of their game object approach and kind of the difference there?
So ECS dots, it's really cool, actually. You're basically organizing your game as a series of systems, and you're leveraging these systems to kind of create gameplay. How Unity typically works is you create a lot of these game objects, you put them into a scene, and it's not really based on multiple systems. It's more like object-oriented design. So the thing about ECS, the thing about dots is it's really aligned with how your CPU actually works, right?
Yeah.
So your CPU isn't really doing multiple things at a time. It is trying to do one thing at a time really, really, really fast. And it's trying to really leverage all of these caches that you have really close to your CPU. So if you're leveraging these caches, the game is working quickly. If you're not leveraging these caches, if you're having to pull data from memory or from, God forbid, your hard drive, things work slowly. So using data-oriented programming, you can more closely align your code with how your CPU actually functions. Unfortunately, that's not an easy system to just patch on to Unity's typical game object-based approach. What we can do is leverage the job system or the burst compiler, like these kind of technologies, but we aren't going to be able to leverage dots directly. So yeah.
I mean, no, that's a good answer, because people like see these big headlines and like the pushes, right? And then when we say something like we're going to upgrade to Unity 6, those are the questions that a lot of people have to think about. One thing you mentioned, like the burst system, the jobs compiler, how, and maybe not even directly related to that, but you talked about the garbage collection earlier, and I know that a lot of stutters DVC players see is actually because of garbage collection. Is anything changing there with the update or sort of after the update?
We're not trying to make major changes to what we're doing with the garbage collector. What we're going to try to do is actually try to avoid garbage collection as a whole.
General,
yeah, exactly. So if you're really carefully managing,
man, this guy's gone, by the way, guys. Well, I'm not jumping. This guy's so gone. Let's just kill him off.
If you're making sure you're not creating a bunch of new memory, you don't have to get rid of it. You don't have to actually use the garbage collection itself. So this is our current approach. Optimize how we're instantiating objects, optimize how we are going about the creation of objects and keeping and reusing those objects, so we don't have to leverage as much garbage collection.
And so, okay, so then, maybe big checkpoint here in the whole interview, big milestone just talk right here. What are we expecting to see with the update go live? And specifically for like the ZVZ and large scale performance, like what are we expecting to go live and help that player base with this update?
So we focused on stutters and hiccups. We've invested a lot of time into making sure the VFX system is not loaded synchronously in the places where it was. So we were already asynchronously loading a lot of different things. And what we're trying to do is make sure everywhere that we are trying to get the loading off the main thread, make sure that that's optimized. So you'll see fewer stutters, basically. This is what you're going to see.
And I mean, stuttering in the ZVZs are definitely a thing. Will you see just raw, maybe FPS gain just from the updates as well?
Don't expect that from this update.
Okay.
That is going to come in the future. We really focused on making sure gameplay is smooth because honestly, in most cases, like right now, I'm at over 180 FPS.
Yeah, I'm at
most people
my
have enough.
rate, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, we're fighting people. I just realized this. Okay,
and
awesome.
we're winning, John. We're winning as well.
Okay, that's awesome.
Oh, please, show it out.
Get him.
But yeah, so in this specific update, you should still see an improvement to your ZVZs. Stuttering is a really big thing, but it might not be a raw FPS gain. And then what are we expecting to see beyond that? Sort of like in the next updates.
So in the next updates, we're going to be working on, of course, Unity 6. As I said before, the in-world UI, which has a dramatic effect on FPS. We're going to be working on updating the animation system, VFX as a whole, like making optimizations there. We recently had a technical engagement with the Unity developers themselves, and they suggested a few things that could improve performance. So we're going to be integrating a lot of these changes. So yeah, we have a lot of general FPS improvements slotted for the future, just not yet.
Yeah, and by the way, again, like I mentioned, we're seeing a ton of questions in chat. Guys, for John, he is sort of the technical director, like you mentioned at the start, the strategy of the tech and kind of where things are going. So we're going to definitely focus on that and not the questions about maybe nerfing Bo Baden and stuff, but we'll get to those with a different developer or speculate on them later. One question though, and this is one straight from chat that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. Like you've talked about it kind of already. You guys don't, and you in your mind right now are not really considering big gameplay shifts in terms of like, hey, we don't want 300 people fighting each other anymore. We want to make it smaller. That's not something that's on the table for you right now, right? You're more focused on making it work.
Yeah, we want it to work. We're not gonna. Okay, so I said something crazy when I first joined the team, and it keeps coming back to bite me.
Oh yeah.
But I would love to see 1,000 people going at it on a single map.
Ooh,
and I'm not saying this is wait a minute. I'm not saying this is feasible. I'm just saying like we're not trying to reduce the player capacity per map. That's not anything.
I think that's an important thing for people to hear for sure.
It's a core gameplay component, and that's something that makes Albion kind of unique. And it's really something that separates us from the competitors is the large scale combat at the end.
Yeah,
exactly.
Now 1,000 today, though, I wouldn't want to see just because I'd like to.
Wouldn't handle it. Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be playing a Blue Lock animated video game in the PowerPoint, right? Like I like at least Albion has some FPS. Oh, there's another fight right here. The Sealer's dead. Beautiful. Dude, we're kind of cleaning this depth up right now, actually. And then so there's a lot of you guys in the chat, John. And so one of the biggest questions that they really wanted me to talk about was something that your recent forum post got into. We did just get destroyed, by the way, guys.
That was cool. That was cool.
I'm gonna blame that completely on Chosen. If we could even delete that from the VOD, we got cooked. That was a little crazy. So I guess before we go back in, let me get to this part, John. What as you know, right, tons of our players in Albion, massive amounts of them, find improvements to playing this video game by using software like a VPN or some tunnel rerouting thing that helps kind of change how their personal connection is being routed to the Albion server. And it's not necessarily your job necessarily, but I think you're the best guy to talk about it more than me. Can you mention why that might work, what that's actually doing, and sort of if you're looking at anything there?
Yeah, so I just made a dev post about this. Honestly, I have to also say that my boss, one of the CEOs of the company, he made it one of my personal KPIs to improve this aspect of the game this year. So I have to devote a lot of time to this. What's happening when you see this is, okay, so there's this thing called BGP. It's used by internet service providers to understand how to route traffic between different servers. And occasionally, these BGP routes can be suboptimal. They may go through some network node that is congested. Too many people are going through it, so it's a little bit slower. It's not taking a direct route. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper to go through this other route. And when you're using a VPN, you're actually bypassing this sort of route inefficiencies, so to speak. And when we ask players to go to this connections form and to give us information on their routing, so we ask for these trace routes, right? What's happening is we're taking this information and we're trying to identify commonalities between all of these trace routes. And if we can find, okay, here's one congested node, we can take it on ourselves to try to either contact the ISPs or in minor ways deprioritize traffic from those servers towards our server. And it doesn't always work. And if I'm being honest, the best way of taking care of this is going through your ISP. I know it's a meme at this point, but your ISP can absolutely solve these routing issues. So if you use a VPN and you have better ping and it's more stable, you need to talk to your ISP. If you use a VPN and it's more stable, but your ping is higher, maybe your ISP won't be able to actually do much in these cases. But in any case, we don't want people to have to use VPNs. We want you to be able to connect to the game without this.
Xbox right around the corner. Very exciting, honestly. I'm looking forward to hanging out with all you guys in studio when that happens.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's going to be fun. You're coming to Berlin, right?
Yeah, we definitely got to get some parties going on for sure, John, after parties. And I'm sure we'll, do some content while we're there. It should be a lot of fun.
Have y'all been to Germany before? Have you been to Berlin?
Yeah, we were there at the end of 2024. We did some dev interviews with, I did one of the retro shows and did a few with sort of the directors. Lupac did one with Robin Henke.
Oh, that's sick. Okay, cool.
It was very fun. Is there any content that you as a player would really like to tackle or see adjusted? Not even just from the tech side, but what kind of stuff would you like to see?
Man, so I really can't say too much here.
Okay.
Besides my own personal opinion on this, but I love the Mists, and honestly, I would love to see some more content like the Abbey. For example, another 2 or 3 Abbeys, not the Abbey itself, but variations of the Abbey. I would like to see variations of the Mist maps themselves. I would like to see Corrupteds getting some love. I want to see rewards buffed overall. Me as the player, this is what I want to see,
This guy's a solo player at heart, by the way. Everything this guy's just said, oh my gosh, yeah.
I want to see this rat problem in the Mist. I get ratted all the freaking time. I want to see that touched on. I want to see. Okay, so this is controversial, but I would love IP caps in the Mists. I hate to get fucking hit by someone in 8.4, and it feels super lame. It feels super lame, bro.
All right, let's hop in together by the way this time, so we're not all. Let's go and we're all playing together. But yeah, go ahead. If John, there's more there to it.
But yeah, man, I want to see some love for the Mists.
Yeah.
I want to see some love for Corrupteds too, though.
You're getting some brownie points right now with a lot of the guys in the chat, bro. There's a lot of guys who I'm sure are very happy with what you're saying.
I'm a solo player.
Yeah, I think, John, that everyone knew that was true when they looked at the build you had equipped.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
This is the definition of a solo player's build for sure. This
Bro.
guy's got health potions.
It'll take
smuggler's
time.
cape,
Oh my God, help us.
Health potion, smuggler cape is solo
literally
through and
do.
through, bro.
That's fantastic. That's
No, but you're
fantastic.
doing great right now. I don't, very great answers. I'm gonna hit you with some harder hitting questions now to catch you in a big mess up here.
Let's go. Let's go.
So
Good.
so there's a lot of like graphics updates coming, and we can get off
Yeah.
of just the EVZ stuff now. There's a ton of graphics updates coming to Albion and Radiant Wilds. Game looks a little bit upgraded. Things look cool.
Yeah.
It's been said that all of these cooler things, new water shader, the water looks incredible.
Yep.
Lighting is improved. There's vegetation updates. There's pollen drifting in the air. Mike, I have allergies IRL, so that's kind of crazy to add. You're targeting me a little bit. But how did all of those updates come about without in SBI's words an increase to recommended or required specs for the game?
Because we were really freaking careful. So after
Sheesh.
any change, these changes were reviewed by our principal engineers, by our senior graphics engineers, to make sure that they met performance constraints. Honestly, there should be virtually no change in terms of performance. It's pretty much in line with what it was before in terms of FPS. And in fact, you will see improvements to stutters, as we mentioned before. And so in general, the game will feel smoother and it will look better. But it took hard work. It took us looking at things, improving things, a lot of iteration,
I can imagine it was a hard struggle to get there, especially because he said you and the team, that team in a whole, you're here as a representative, touched over 600 different visual effects in the game to optimize that. Like, that's such a big thing to do.
There's another dude named John at Sandbox, and it was his team that took on the heavy workload here for sure, together with the help of like my engineers.
Yeah.
But like they went over everything. Yeah, his team is great. Shout out to John. Seriously.
I mean, hopefully maybe we get the other John in for an interview one day. John?
Oh, yeah, that might be interesting. That
would be interesting for sure. We talked earlier. This is kind of circling back. I didn't hit this point hard. Maybe I should have asked this, but chat wanted to know. We talked about the VPN stuff, right? And how some players, like you mentioned, might actually see an improvement right now when they use a VPN or some reroute in their ISP tunneling to the game, and their ping is the same, but things are smoother, or their ping even can go down or not jitter as much, right? For these players, like, is one of the solutions you're looking into, and maybe it's a hard no, sort of SBI, not necessarily VPN, but sort of like tunnel reroute or something like that built into the game?
So no, but we are looking at increasing. Okay, so basically all players have to access our internal network in order to play the game. And right now, players have to travel a far distance in order to actually reach our servers. If you know companies like Cloudflare or Akamai, they have these CDNs, and most of those CDNs are really close to your house, and so you're able to connect to them really closely. But we don't have that luxury at the moment. But we have like an experiment, basically. We have a project in place to where we try to leverage more points of presence that are closer to players, placing them in the CDN from our hosting provider, and thereby getting players to our network sooner. So this doesn't mean that they will instantly see an increase in performance, but that means that a majority of their network traffic should travel within our internal network. And so if something is happening like packet loss, we'll be able to monitor that and see that and maybe make improvements to it directly. So we won't have our own VPN, but we may be able to move our network closer to players, so to speak.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's
what we're
really
trying to do
good
right
to hear that it's being considered and talked about, right? Because I know a lot of people find benefits from these things, and they want to know SPI is aware of that, right? And that's
absolutely.
really good to hear.
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. One thing you talked about, John, and I want you to be really careful with answering this question, but I have to ask. It's kind of related to what you said. Chat's wanting to know, like you mentioned, right? There are servers kind of far from where you live. Right now, we have 3 of them, right? We've got a NA, we've got a EU, we've got a Asia server, and these, an America server, a Europe, and an Asian, and these servers exist in certain locations. You got to connect to them, right?
Yep.
Is there any plans for additional servers, not even necessarily distinct from those three and on a different like world, right? But additional servers within those clusters to connect to?
So that's an interesting question.
Yeah, no, be really careful about this one because I don't want to promise that we're going to be launching a server in Australia or anything.
I mean, as of right now, there are no concrete plans, honestly. But okay, I have to be really careful about this for sure. We are looking into whether or not this makes sense. That doesn't mean we are making plans for this, but we're trying to see if that actually makes sense. So I had a similar question from an internal employee, and he was asking about South Korean servers because a lot of our players and payers are in South Korea.
Yeah.
And right now, our servers are located in Singapore, actually. And it might make sense to relocate. I'm not saying we're doing this, but it has been questioned. So,
and could you maybe talk about why it's difficult to have the one location game server that is Asia, so all of Asia? Why is it maybe difficult to have a server that people can connect to in the Philippines and another one in Korea, and yet they're still existing in the same world? Like, this is a kind of technical answer.
Yep.
It might get too in depth, but just broad strokes, right?
okay, so any single map that you're on, it's located on a physical game server. And so if you think about if you're sitting in the middle of Fort Sterling, for example, that has a physical location. And so it's really difficult to offer regional servers when you only have a one physical single shard, you know?
Yeah.
So everyone wants to play together. We want to play on the same maps. And the only way to move servers physically closer to players would either be to add something like instancing. So we would have a South American version of Fort Sterling and a North American version of Fort Sterling, or only allow instancing closer to those areas. So maybe the depths themselves, we could offer a South American server for South American players, but only for the depths. And you have to think about, it's not only these servers that we'd have to think about. We would also have to think about things like database connections, for example. So in order for your state to be saved, it needs to connect to a database. And if we stretch this across the globe, it would actually be very, very difficult to achieve in terms of performance. There might be a significant amount of lag. So it's just, it's not a simple thing to add. And in fact, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
One thing you didn't necessarily mention, but like it exists in every conversation about these servers, right? Is that there's already three, and Albion started with one. Albion started with everybody on one, and that's kind of a good experience in some ways. Everybody's on one, not a great experience in others. Some people have 400 ping. It's a lot higher than really what they have, but right. And so we're not necessarily talking about adding like a fourth split server. We're more talking about what can we do in the ones to improve people's connections on the same world, right? And I think that's an important distinction for people. It's a kind of higher level concept, but there's a lot in there. But it's a good answer, John. I like that answer. I'm sure chat appreciates it because I've gotten asked about this server thing a ton while we've been in here. Shows, and is there anything that you're like dying to hear more about?
Actually, yeah. So like John was talking about how he started programming all the way back when he was like 15 years old. I'm guessing that means you've played a lot of video games in the last 30 plus years. What are some of your favorite games that really have inspired you and really pushed you to become somebody involved in the industry? Because all of us got into this because of our passion and our love for games. We don't get into it for the money. We get into it for the love of the game, they say.
So in terms of MMOs, I don't know if y'all know about an MMO named Ragnarok Online.
Oh my god!
Yeah. I've been killing some bunnies back in the day. Speaking of Korean games,
crazy. It actually really inspired me to apply at this company, Gameforge, where they published Asian MMOs. The first MMO I ever worked on was 4-Story there. So I love Ragnarok Online. Honestly, I've been playing games since I played Wolfenstein 3D, Duke Nukem 3D. I loved ego shooters. Honestly, these are the types of games that I gravitate towards. I mentioned Tarkov earlier, DayZ, Arma. I was playing Arma mods. H1Z1.
Were
any
you an
sort of
Armor
battle
mod guy?
royales.
Like you were on the Epoch on Armor 2
Yeah,
and stuff?
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, dude.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
live. John, I've got like 14,000 hours in just Armor 2 Epoch. I've got another like 20 in Armor 3. I lived on military simulations for
Arma is
all of like
janky
high
as
school.
hell. It's
Loved
janky
Arma,
as
dude.
hell, but
Yeah, but
it's
the best
really
kind
one of my
jank.
favorite. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
really.
anytime I hear Duke Nukem, I gotta make a shout out to Dude Bro 2, my buddy's game coming out sometime in the future. John St. John doing the voices for that. Love it.
Yeah, game. I mean,
Awesome.
mentioning Game Boy is crazy. Mentioning Ragnarok is great. I love that stuff. Love to hear that. Let me think, John. What else there like hard hitting? Like, what was a gotcha question I could ask you? Like the chat would clip and go crazy. Like,
Oh, I mean, one question we ask everybody, Tazzik, is what was your welcome to Albion moment? What was that, time you got killed first by players and were like, damn, this is a full loot game, and I just done fucked up.
oh yeah,
Well,
what
I mean,
about that,
I
John?
never really had this kind of a moment because I've been playing more hardcore games my entire life. So I actually churned from Albion the first time when it wasn't a ZVZ, but it was a huge guild versus guild battle. And I was like almost broke and I felt like I lost to this like really insane combo back in 2017. And I churned from the game. I stopped playing for years. I recently picked it up like in 2024, 2025 again. And I've mostly been playing solo, but this game, it's hardcore, but it's not more hardcore than like any of these other hardcore games that I've been playing. So yeah, it's a good experience actually. And I think now we have a nice blend of hardcore and more casual experiences. Oh yeah, let's go get these dudes.
This is a question where I needed the PR answer for. I actually have 3 Discord DMs and 2 chat messages. We talked about servers. Technically, moving your character from one server to another is technically possible. But what do you think about that in Albion as itself right now?
Okay, so I support adding this feature. In fact, I've talked about it multiple times, mostly because I'm very selfish. And right now I'm playing on the Americas server because I've been playing for so long and I don't want to
don't want to move, right? Yeah.
So, oh man, but there are economy issues with actually adding something like this. Technically, it's something we can do if we invest enough time in it, right? But there are also economy issues that we have to look at. So it's something that comes up, honestly, on our backlog on a regular basis. And I think there were even promises made in the past to players about this, honestly, that it would come. But it's something that we have to be really, really careful about. So,
it's not as easy as just flipping a switch and letting you move from NA to Asia. There's a lot of considerations. Yeah,
but we're still thinking about it. We really are considering it.
You talked about maybe moving the Asia server.
We gotta bring you in. We gotta bring you in.
Oh yeah, John, get in here. Get in here. We talked about John maybe moving the Korea server. The Asia server to South Korea or something to help out because there's a big. And you're considering moving the Asia server. Kind of what you said. Are there any considerations?
It was it's just talked about.
Not that it's
anything realistically, exactly.
Not even realistically happened. But we have a question now for America, which is obviously we have a big South American player base. Is there the same conversation talked about for the America server for the South American players?
It is being talked about, but honestly, it's not something that we're actually considering right now. Our servers are near Washington, D.C., and they're probably going to stay there. And if I'm being honest, we're actually in the middle of a data center migration at the moment. We want to modernize our hardware a little bit. We want to get more powerful, up-to-date servers there. And after such a huge investment, it's unlikely that we're going to move all of those servers to South America. So right now we're really focused on modernizing our infrastructure. That doesn't mean we're not putting a little bit of focus, or a lot of focus actually, on South American players. But there we're focusing specifically on connection issues, improving networking. We're not going to move the actual bare metal servers there. That doesn't make sense.
I saw someone in chat.
We're not headed to Nevada anytime soon, lads.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I saw 2 people in chat now, maybe even more. I'm just scrolling back up. They said John's really got this script memorized well.
Guys, it seems like honest, immediate training. I want to bring him back on here, man.
I gave John a list of like what I wanted to talk about, and we've been off that list for the last hour. And so these are kind of just off the cuff, natty questions John's answering actually.
And I
I
actually
want to
didn't
bring him
study,
back.
so
Wow, this guy's good. This guy's real good. I'm like, this is impressive.
Yeah.
next time I'm gonna study for sure.
I mean, how do you feel so far, John? Do you want to maybe try an arena again instead of just?
Okay.
We could try an arena. I'm not an arena dude, but yeah, absolutely. Like I'm
Well-
just fun. I'm just having fun, like killing people.
I don't know if you saw the Albion TV event show that we've been doing, where we kind of just like
That was
randomly make mini
hilarious.
games. We did like
Yeah.
a Hunger Games thing
I saw that
people
one.
really loved. We did a soccer event, football. That was awesome. We did like a battle royale where people made their own build and we sort of teleport around a cool area. You know, technically, because you're not the design guy, I'm not going to ask you if you can add that in the game. But like technically, John, would it
Yeah.
be possible and maybe even easy to give players systems to do stuff like that?
Definitely not easy, but it's definitely possible. Honestly, I've been sharing this video around the office since you sent it to me. I think the Hunger Games event was hilarious. And honestly, I played Gary's mod back in the day.
Oh, I love Gmod.
right? Gmod was great, right?
Yeah, TTT, you had prop hunt, you had all the cool stuff. Yeah.
These are the kind of experiences that I want to give to players. So it's definitely being discussed and it's definitely technically possible, but we have to see how it would fit into our overall roadmap.
Yeah.
So,
Let's
that is
do
cool
one
shit.
arena really quick. Chosen, I think you heal it, so I can put in some damn pressure. I think
Okay,
you're
okay,
fine on
okay.
heals. Don't
All right,
you're,
all right,
you're
let
in
me-
your
let me grab my
healing
other
arc
boot.
anyway. We need to keep you
Yeah.
practicing for the shows here. So we'll hop back into one more arena. John, honestly, in the initial arena we did, hit a 4-man, 3-man E, and I was like, dang, this is going to be a good show.
I know if we could just get this guy with the right skills in his setup, he'd be dominating.
The right skill, the right gear. I mean,
Yeah,
like I said,
just
this
a
is
couple of tweaks here and
like
there.
I
you
said,
know,
my
like,
guy
I'm
is playing Smuggler's Cave Healing Potion. He is a true solo player.
We'll
I
get him
only
there.
play
We'll get
solo.
him there.
And you know what, John? You know what would really help you, bro? The armory update, man. The armory update
Oh,
could really help you
absolutely.
find a group
Mhm.
content.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
John, is there anything that you just want to say to the viewers? Right, you got a lot of people watching now. We're gonna have 10 times that amount watching this VOD over the next few hours. The YouTube upload. What do you want to say to these guys?
I mean, nothing really, bro. Like, I want to say that, like, we care about the players. We're listening to y'all. We're stalking you on social media. We're looking at everything you say about us. And we really, really care. We want to make sure that your experience is the best possible. And that's the whole reason that I'm here today. I'm honestly super nervous in front of like large crowds and speaking to thousands of people. It's a little bit disconcerting. But the reason that I'm doing this is because, like, really, I want to make people know that we're fighting to make things better in certain areas. And overall, we really believe in the player community and we believe in this game. So we're going to make it happen.
You've been doing
Connection
a
issues,
really great
we're gonna,
job.
We're
dude.
going to
Yeah.
do something. We're
Ron,
gonna
you
do
did
You
a-
were killing it this whole hour and a half. Like you've been doing
Absolutely
super
fantastic. It's like you have media training. You've done a fantastic
Yeah, I mean,
job.
they
We'd
were
love
literally
to get you
talking
back
about it
on.
in chat. Yeah, they're like, this guy's PR trained. This guy's media trained. He's doing well. You did awesome, dude. Maybe it's that experience watching Twitch for so long. John.
Maybe. I love Twitch. Like, shout out to No Generals and Very Bad Scav from Tarkov. Like, those are two of my favorite streamers, really.
That's
So,
sick.
yeah.
If anyone wants to hear more from John, I'm not lying to you, but you have to read it. You won't hear it from him. There are two big topics that he posted on the forums. One is about sort of how Albion hits the ZVZ performance, like what goes into it, what improvements might come about, things like that. And the other one is more recent. It was actually at the start of this week, talking about the connection that you might have to Albion, issues you might have, sort of the challenges with the game. A lot of what we went over today, you can find there, either more in depth or just different, things about these topics. If you want to read more, definitely check those out. John, I hope to see more of these threads, by the way. Like, I really like reading all this stuff. So I'm excited for more threads if you have more ideas in the future.
Oh, there will be more coming for sure. My hope is that as we are working through some of these issues or we see topics in the community, we'll be able to make more technically oriented dev posts. And since I'm a nerd and I do technical documentation, it's pretty easy for me to make these kind of long write-ups, much easier than speaking, if I'm being honest. And so if people have questions, if they want to know how things work, please post about it, talk about it, and we'll try to answer your questions.
Well, thank you very much, John. This has been a real pleasure. I hope we do get to have you back on the show sometime. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you in Berlin, and the rest of the team will definitely have to take you out. We'll be talking a lot of old school video games. It seems like we started right around the exact same time where I'm 47 and I started building PCs at 14 so I could play Counter-Strike and, well, not Counter-Strike, Command and Conquer. Sorry, Command and Conquer was the one I built, the one for when I was 14. But yeah, it's I think we'll have a really good time hanging out in Berlin. Looking forward to it. I hope to bring you back on the air, and maybe we'll just talk about just gaming in general sometime. Not, stretch your brain so much while you're here hanging out with us. But it was an
Sounds good.
absolute pleasure, John. I really appreciate your time. And thank you to the audience. Thank you, Tazzik, for this fantastic interview that you performed today. You really led this thing like a true professional. You did a fantastic job. Thank you to Mostly Bread in the background for doing what he does. And Bogle, as always, you're fantastic at hitting those buttons. So, guys, until we see you again, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you again real soon.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.